Hi guys, it's Mark Zickery, Mr. Sci-Fi, also known as Mark Zickery of Space Command. and just wanted to touch base and talk about Picard. I just watched the last 3 episodes of Picard, and I was going to do it like one episode at a time, but I'm not going to. So first couple things. I hope you're all staying safe, staying healthy. Here in LA, we're in our apartments, so the streets are very quiet. But Elaine and I are doing fine. The Kickstarter campaign, someone just pulled $5,000 out of it, so it's only $1,000 above our initial goal of 48,000. So if anything goes out of it, we could lose all of it. So if you've been wanting to pledge to the campaign, please do so now, because I'd much rather have a buffer of, like $5,000, the amount the person pulled out, because that'll allow us to get through this time and keep our small band of Space Command editors, VFX people, producer, etc., paid and able to make their rent and able to buy food for themselves. Nobody's getting rich off this. As you guys know, and but I just want to make sure that Dave Edison and all of the people that are part of our team don't suffer through this time, and we can keep going with finishing hour 2 and 3 and doing the visual effects and building the sets and all of that stuff, getting ready. And I'm going to be doing an episode of Space Command that I'll be donating just to everyone during this time. I'm starting to think about it and talk to our actors and so forth, where everyone will shoot in their own places, all with their own cameras. It's going to be a very interesting experiment. So, and by the way, when we're talking about Star Trek, I came upon this today, which I hadn't seen in forever. This is a Star Trek script I wrote when I was 10 years old. And I was going to shoot it on Super 8 film, if you remember that. And it's very funny because I mentioned Kirk as a character by name, but I guess I didn't know who was going to be operating Uhura's station, so I just refer to that person as the switchboard operator. Now, those of you who are old enough know that in the old days, there was a switchboard, and you would call into any given company, and there'd be a switchboard operator who would pull out these things and push in these things and connect people up to their different offices, and that was what that was. So that was switchboard operator on the Enterprise. Pretty cool. I probably will be offering a premium of that script that I wrote when I was 10 to those who are interested in reading what I was like back then. So, that said, let's talk about Picard now that we've seen the entire first season. There will be spoilers here, so be warned. And so here's my overall thing. I liked it better than Discovery. It wasn't as crazily 2 steps this way, 1 step that way. Who's who, what's what. The story was very, very clear. It's about androids and a Romulan plot to destroy the androids, and the androids can reach out and contact an ancient super synthetic life form that will kill all the organic life forms in the galaxy and so forth. So okay, that plot tracks. It would have made a very good 2-hour Star Trek movie, because with Picard, the first half or so of the season was like talking about stuff, considering stuff, thinking about stuff, looking up stuff, and finally got ahead of steam. But it was much too lackadaisical at many points. And but that said, it got better as it went on. It was terrific to see Jonathan Frakes, Marina Sirtis, Brent Spiner, and also, of course, Jerry Ryan was terrific as 7 of 9. And that was the one character where they actually extrapolated a life that was more interesting than on Voyager. So because Picard at the beginning of the season is just kind of sitting in his chair, feeling bitter, and then when we see Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis, they're kind of just like hanging out in their woodland cabin, and so no one has a life that has gone on to greater commitment or greater interest or it's just. But Jerry Ryan, as someone who's sort of a freebooter and sort of someone seeking justice for freed Borg people, she was really interesting, and Jerry Ryan really did it well. Her body language, everything, just great. Now I've heard that they're going to do a spin-off series with her, and so they should. I hope the writing will be better overall. And if they want my phone number, please give it to them, because I would be happy to write a Seven of Nine show. I think it'd be great fun. I've always liked Jerry Ryan. I met her back when she was playing Seven of Nine on Voyager, and she was impressive then, and she's every bit as impressive now, if not more so. So that's what I liked, and it was good to see Patrick Stewart doing Picard again. He is pushing 80, so that has to be taken into account. So here's the yin and the yang of it. It told the beginning, middle, and end. Great. It was a story that made sense. Michael Chabon did some good scripts. He's a writer that I've mentioned before that I very much like. And it had the ending. They did have this magical gizmo that you think and things appear, and that was like, where'd that come from? What the hell was that thing? Magic. Jesus. And they had a lot of kind of techno babble stuff going on, and just and they had space flowers, and that's a little bit dubious. And but that said, they got a lot of stuff going in that final episode. The Romulans attacking, flowers attacking, Picard in the middle of it. Blah, 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 Federation shows up. Why, look, it's Jonathan Frakes. Fine. So, what did I like? I liked all the things I've mentioned. What did I have problems with? Well, there's a phenomenon I see happening in television and movies, and I really dislike it, which is where you have a character die, you play the emotional moment of them dying, and then you bring them back. And so it's really a cheat. I mean, I remember, in Wrath of Khan, where Spock dies, and then you had to wait like a year or two for the next movie, and oh, look, he's alive. But they at least played the emotion, and I heard when I saw that in movie theaters, people were crying, and I think I got a little teary myself. It was really well done. But I just saw Frozen 2. Spoiler, clever ears if you haven't seen Frozen 2, but the snowman, he dies in her arms, and then at the end of the movie, they bring him back to life. Okay, so they do this with Picard. But they do it even worse with Picard, because Picard dies of his brain, space senility, and then they bring him back. But between those 2 points, he dies, and he's with all of his little, friends on the planet, and then they have a scene with 2 of our characters mourning over Picard and crying and blah, blah, blah. And then they have another scene with 2 of the other characters mourning over Picard and crying. And then, hey, they bring him back, and he's alive, except they bring him back in an android body that isn't like 30, but instead is 80. And they say, well, you're set in your ways. You wouldn't want a younger body. Well, you might have asked him. But, okay, fine. But it's still, why am I sitting through these 2 lugubrious scenes of people mourning him when he isn't dead? Particularly the fact that it isn't Marina Sirtis and Brent Spiner and Jonathan Frakes and other of the Next Generation cast members who we have the relationship with, and they have the relationship with Picard. I mean, it was so interesting to see the scenes where he's talking to Raffi, and they say that they have a relationship, but they really don't. They haven't, except in comic books. Versus when he's reunited with Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis, and there really is years, decades of a relationship, and you feel it in their performances, and you believe it. There's a chemistry to it, and again, this points up how terrific many of the actors in Next Gen, DS9, Voyager were and are, and what treasures they are, because at the end, you have all these characters, and then Picard's going to leave on the ship, and his space senility is cured, and it's the android girls there, and Rios is there, and, Seven of Nine, and Raffi, and maybe they're going to be a lesbian thing. Who knows? They're holding hands for some reason. But when Picard's dying and he's surrounded by Raffi and Rios, and can't even remember what happened to the Romulan kid, the bearded Romulan kid, and the blonde girl, and it's like, and we have no investment in any of these characters. I can't even really tell you, for the most part, who they are, what they're like. It's as Richard Manning used to call it, it's spray on character. It's that thin, and and you don't feel the connection. It's like they're emoting, but you're not. At least for myself, I'm only speaking for myself. I'm not feeling those emotions, whereas I did feel those emotions in the scenes with the characters we've come to know and love. Even the scene with Brent Spiner as Data, even though Data looks weird, and I know they spent a ton of time de-aging him with CG, and his eyes are kind of odd. They don't quite look right for Data. Having seen him in person in makeup, way back when in the day on Star Trek's Next Generation, but okay. And having Data say, well, I want to die and pull the plug on me, I mean, I'm a little dubious, a little strange. I'd much rather him say, hey, let me be constituted and go off with you on your ship and have more adventures. It's like, that'd be nice, but who knows? Probably too expensive. To pay him to be in the entire series. Okay, whatever. But in conclusion, Picard's a better show, tells a story, it's okay. Meantime, we want to, see where the 7 of 9 show goes. Will there be another season of Picard? I don't know. If there will, okay. But it's just, for me, the new characters did not really make an impression. I think it takes a lot of work to make a character work. I mean, if you watch Star Trek New Voyages, World Enough in Time, I had Alana very clearly in my head, Sulu's daughter. And so when I wrote those scenes, I knew who she was, and I wrote her so the audience would be in tears at the end, because you would know who that person was and what she believed and what she felt. And Christina Moses was spectacular. We're going to be working again together very soon, I think. So... but if you loved Picard, if it's a terrific show and it was your favorite Star Trek show, fine, absolutely fine. Again, if I was 13 and Picard was on the air, I'd probably love it a lot more than I do. I liked it. I was very glad to see Jerry Ryan. They have a lot of weird things going on. Like, for instance, there's 3 characters who seem to be alcoholics. I mean, Rios, and then Raffi, and then 7 of 9 drinks heavily. It's like, are there alcoholics writing these scripts? I mean, not to cast aspersions, but like, it seems that it's pro-alcoholism as near as I can tell, and pro-drug, and it's like, with Scotty it was kind of whimsical, but that wasn't he wasn't the main character on Star Trek, and I don't know, it just concerns me that they have people smoking, people doing drugs, people drinking, and somehow, I know you can say Raffi, her son's estranged from her, but that was also because she was saying, well, there's a Romulan plot and they're trying to destroy the androids, and she was right, even though he thought she was crazy. So it's just noise, just okay, fine. And let's see, what else did I want to say? Oh, okay, here's a couple of other little points. For instance, and then there's Elnor, of course, and he's, again, just kind of that long-haired swords guy from various other franchises. Solo had one. That one was blind, of course. There's one in Big Trouble in Little China. He doesn't have a sword, but he looks like this guy. And Romulans, okay, fine. There was the sister who was just arch and one note. The Romulan sister who 7 of 9 dispatches. Just kind of a boring character, because, again, the way you make characters interesting is by giving them complexity and variety. And if you don't do that, we've seen it a million times. The evil sister who's kind of got a incestuous kind of thing going for her brother, and I don't know. It just, or vice versa. Like in the Gladiator. Okay, fine. And then the super synths from the other place in time and space. Then when the portal opens up and they come out, and they're these snapping kind of like metal tentacles. Does anyone notice that that's exactly the same villain as in the Matrix? I mean, what else? They go back and forth to the Borg cube. Does the Borg cube ever really do much? I mean, you'd think it would have a little more oomph to it to save the day, but okay. So, basically, good show, good job, everyone worked hard, ton of visual effects. At the end of the day, what is the point of the story? Well, you're alive and you can make a choice. You don't have to destroy humanity. We kind of knew what the ending was going to be. There was really no surprise to it. So I think part of the problem I'm having with it is that it went where it went, but great stories tell a human truth that isn't an easy truth or a facile truth. And again, I'm damning with faint praise and fainting with damn praise, I guess. Whatever. That said, I'm glad Star Trek is still flourishing. I'm glad, if it is, I'm glad it's still getting money for the studio. We're all sitting at home catching up on stuff. We're going to see what the next few days bring. So tomorrow I'm having a Mr. Sci-Fi live streaming at 1:30 Pacific time for the backers, for the investors, answering questions about Space Command. It'll be a dialogue between me and people who take part. You're welcome to take part in it. I'll be here. And again, if you can throw some money at the Kickstarter campaign, it would be very much appreciated, because it would be such a bitter pill if that money just all vanished in a puff of smoke. It would make things very much harder for us to continue Space Command, and we'll do it, of course. We'll find a way. But boy, now is the moment for you guys to kind of give a little help. But that's about it for now. More Mr. Sci-Fi to come, more Space Command to come, more of everything to come, and just really glad you guys are here. And if the purpose of Picard was nothing more than to give Jerry Ryan her own show, then it was time well spent, money well spent. Jonathan Frakes, by the way, I've had conversations with him. I've had lunches with him. He's a really wonderful guy, and that warmth that comes through on screen is really the warmth of that person. So we'll see if he ends up being in Space Command or any of the other projects I'm doing. We'll find out. And that's about it for now. So until next time, Mark Zickery, Mr. Sci-Fi. Subscribe, ding the bell. I'll have the link to the Kickstarter campaign down here. We also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/Mark Zickery. And of course, we're still selling Space Command shares at $7,500 each. So all that information is down here, and we'll talk to you really soon. Bye, guys.